There we go. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
I think we're here.
You think we're here?
We're not experienced. I think we got the audio working. Hello to everybody watching the Moon stream here on P&K. Once again, joining me, as always, as we try to do once every moon cycle at least, is Mark D'Antonio.
Hey
Hello,
guys,
Mark.
what's happening?
Mark is a professional astronomer. I'm not even going to go through the list. We'll do that at the end of everything. You can catch him on TV if you want to. You can see him on NASA's Unexplained files and all this other crap. But
Exactly. Crap.
you can see him a bunch of stuff. He just got done talking at the Devil's Tower UFO rendezvous out in Wyoming, where we will be headed in a little over a month and a half, I guess.
I got some good tips for you too, so you know kind of where to go and things to do that'll save you some time. Because if it's your first time out there, you kind of get overwhelmed when you look at that giant tree stump.
I want to be overwhelmed.
Well, you will be, and as soon as you get there and you start to see it for the first time, you start to get this feeling in your gut, like, wow, there it is, man.
Yeah. I heard it's quite a sight to see.
It is. I mean, this was my second time going around the tower on the trails, and I brought a group up there. Actually, all the speakers, courtesy of the organizers, Bob Olson and Lori Tucker.
Yeah.
I brought all the speakers up to the tower because it never closes. It's open all night long because it's a national monument. The trails are open all night, and so we drove up there and went down this trail that you're going to go down at midnight, called Joyner Trail, and it's literally is 3 minutes along that trail, and you get the backside of the tower, and you see the most beautiful vistas with the stars and in the sky and everything. The Milky Way is running over your head, horizon to horizon.
Yeah, I tell you, we can't wait.
Stunning! It's stunning.
Cannot wait.
No,
it's gonna be a heck of a time, man. We plan on bringing it all to you live, right here on the channel for everybody to see what we're seeing. Paul is taking the big scopes. He's taking the little scopes. He's taking the new double stack solar scope, and it's all gonna be there. Plus, not to mention tons and tons of cameras. And the station there was nice enough to allow us to use their internet. So we will have
Ranger station. Yeah,
the Ranger station is allowing us to use their internet. So we will have a solid connection, wired, not Wi-Fi. We will be wired. So it's gonna be neat. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, the only problem is that when you're in the KOA, which is the campground you're talking about,
right
at the entrance to the park, you have lights in there, and so you're going to have to probably forego the wired connection for some of the time. And when you want to go to see the action,
well, we have a
Milky Way horizon, you got to get
a
little bit of what?
Mike's still cutting it a little bit, but we have a couple options. We have we can ask them if we can shut a couple down, or I take the BB gun and just do a little ping ping.
Actually, I'm sorry. Did I do something? Was that all right? Did I do bad? Yeah, I can get it.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's cool. So it's really clear in Miami tonight. It's the air. It's Miami air. I mean, it's Florida. What can you do when you do have that upper trough running up still into what's left of Florence?
That's true.
Paul's still kind of on the outskirts of a little bit. The updraft, if you will, is a little to his west. But it does allow him to have clear skies. And it always seems to be that way, when it's cloudy or raining in Pennsylvania, where I am. It always seems to be beautiful down there. So we hope for rain around my area when the moon cycle comes around, because it always seems to be clear in Florida.
Interesting. Then that means that when you hope for rain, you're guaranteeing that I have crappy weather too.
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks, pal.
Oh well. Well, it doesn't matter. You won't be putting up with that much longer because you're heading for Arizona, right?
I am. I'm going to be going to Arizona, permanently in a couple of years. But I was just out in the observatory today, getting it ready for any upcoming clear skies that happen. But we're getting the remnants of Florence right now, which, cloudy, humid, warm weather, so it's not really that good. But
Man, I tell you what, Carolina's got battered, man.
I saw.
And the worst of the flooding isn't, wasn't till today and tomorrow, I believe, still.
Well,
Jeez.
one of the speakers that we had out at Devil's Tower was Micah Hanks, who lives in Asheville, North Carolina.
Mm.
And so he was, concerned about even getting home, but luckily he got home. And then, his talk was fantastic. He did a wonderful a wonderful lecture on the philosophy of UFO science and so forth. And then David Marler, who is probably the world's best historian of UFO sightings throughout our history, he did a great talk. Lee Spiegel, former Huffington Post Greer editor, and now works with James Fox on documentaries. He was there and he did a wonderful talk on when he and Jacques Vallée went to the UN and talked to the General Assembly. I did a keynote speech on what's today, Saturday night.
Yeah.
And that went very well. And that was in a different place. They had a larger facility. And then I ran a couple of skywatches too. And we actually saw one of the last Iridium satellites because the Iridiums are going to be decommissioned, which is kind of bad.
Yeah. Geez. What do you think about the Sunspot closure?
I looked into that, and I know the initial closure was temporary. It still is because it's a security problem because the adjoining land is Sandia Lab land, and the problem is that there was espionage going on in the observatory where they were intercepting communiques from Sandia. So that was the security issue that was called that in the news reports. The security issue was the fact that there was an ongoing spy ring inside the observatory. And I think it was, I don't know who it was actually, but it was actually very quick. They came in, they shut it down to weed out and get everybody straightened out and figure out.
I wonder how they figured it out. Like, who was the initial person that said, "What the heck is going on here?" And maybe we should call the authorities.
I'm not sure, but I'd hazard a guess that it was probably someone at the observatory.
Yeah.
Noticed
because I was guessing that most of these observatories have a direct line to, say, the Pentagon or something like that, just in case. Like, say, if they see, you don't want to go through third parties if you see a giant asteroid headed towards Earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you want
I do.
Direct defenses.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing there's some sort of straight line of dialogue that can be opened, if something goes on at any one of the observatories. But that's just a guess.
Yeah, I don't disagree. One of the things though that's interesting is, there were all these stories saying, "Oh, all these observatories are closing around the world." Actually, that's a little bit of hype and internet.
It's in the conspiracy realm. You know how they do. They take it and they run with it, and then they make their own, stuff with it, and then.
Yeah, you want to hear the reason why they said there were some closures for at least some of the cases?
Yeah,
and no lie. For one of the solar observatories, they said it was closed because, you ready? I called the number and there was no answer. No lie. And they determined it was closed. Yeah. See, they wanted it to be closed because that makes a really good story.
Of course it does.
And of course, yeah. And for all the others, they said, "Well, I got an answering machine, therefore it's closed."
They're not answering my Facebook message I left on their Facebook page.
Exactly so. And that's, to me...
The government's hiding something. They're hiding everything. There's a large firmament above the Earth. Just saw that in the chat earlier.
Yeah, because there's... Yeah, here's the thing. Because there's no other solar observatories but these 6 in the whole world.
Yeah.
So they realize that in each major country, there's at least 50 to 80 solar observatories that are either university affiliated or affiliated with the governments. Okay. Yeah. I think that it's actually par for the course that 6 may shut down here and there. And I know that, SOHO was launched in the 90s. That's the, solar observatory that's orbiting out there.
Right.
And SOHO does at times get shut down for maintenance and reprogramming. Okay. Because, again, from the 90s, its detectors sometimes have to be reconditioned, with software. They have to go through the software.
That's why I'm still kind of glad that our nuclear system still runs off a floppy disk. I'm just like, okay, let's not bring it into the new stuff. Let's keep it old school and analog, and it's a little bit more protected that way.
Well, yeah, an EMP would destroy floppy disks anyway. But I get your point.
The way most hackers, and just the way the conspiracy people take off and run with it. It's just, you see some ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, I know.
They saw an alien ship by the sun, so they had to. It's like, yeah, but don't you think the other 500 solar observatories would have saw the same thing?
Well, and the fact is, they didn't. And you say, well, wait, why didn't they see it?
It's a government conspiracy.
Well, because it was that particular sensor that received that particular cosmic ray strike.
Yeah.
And so and they look like splashes. In fact, unfortunately, they look like the Anunnaki, mythical ships. And so people say, look, it's an Anunnaki ship. No, that's actually a cosmic ray splash. That's exactly what they look like, actually. Yeah. And they ignore the ones that don't look like that. And that's the other problem we do. They have this, they see these splashes and say, look, it's definitely a ship. But what about this splash over here? Yeah, well, no. But this one's a ship. No, wait, what about this splash over here and this one over here?
My favorites are the people that look at the SDO like all day long.
Yeah.
And see something interfere with like the SDO, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, it's a rogue planet, or
yes,
there's something feeding off the sun.
Yeah, and that one that I actually did a What on Earth episode where there was this object feeding off the sun, so to speak. And by the time I was done discussing it, it was obvious. It was actually embarrassingly obvious that it was just an artifact in the camera, and an artifact in the way they produced the image. But hey, sometimes they accept it, sometimes they don't. That is they being.
Well, here's the thing: people love it. People love it. That's the thing. Everybody loves a good conspiracy. That's just what it is. You know?
Conspiracy is wonderful, yeah.
You have channels that thrive off of it.
Yeah. Wait, Mr. I'm on 6. Dead stars and planets are here in our atmosphere. I guess.
Yeah, it seems legit.
Well, without explanation, it certainly doesn't. But actually, if you explain it in terms of what we're made of, then yeah, okay. It's not planets per se, but stars. Okay, dead stars made everything that we're all made of, including your computer, your microphones, your body, your eyeballs. Every single part of your body was once element forged in a star. So okay, there we go. And then I can see that he's just sort of like trolling. A great orb deliverer and the son /son of God. Blah blah blah. Okay, well whatever. I don't need to buy that, to know how the universe was formed.
Yeah.
No, it was a carbon.
And the all caps tell me that somebody just needs a soapbox.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And but I figured I'd just call him out just to point out how silly it is.
Yeah.
And the lunar wave. Well, actually, we've explained that a million times, Donald. The lunar wave is actually pretty simple to explain.
Donald Dump.
The lunar wave is actually usually, in fact, most times, every time I've seen, actually, I can't say every single thing because I don't know every single possibility, but I do know one or two that actually work, and you can create a lunar wave. What happens is when a jet passes through the area, there's a lot of hot exhaust coming out. That hot exhaust, of course, is going to be next to cooler air. And just like on a hot road where you see hot air rising off the road and you see rippling effect, no one ever complains about that. Isn't that a road wave?
Yeah.
But that's what you see in the sky. It's when you see that jet contrail, which doesn't go away right away. It'll be there for many minutes. When that air that's going through, that jet's going through, it's moving like a stream. It's moving like a solid mass. All right. And it moves through the field of view, and you can see the ripple effect on the moon.
Yeah, and it's not only caused by jets. It could be caused by meteorites miles away. You don't even see.
Yeah, and then
it's just an air differential.
Yeah, and when that air mass passes in front of the moon, which, air doesn't sit still. The winds aloft are actually quite hefty. You could have, remember the jet stream can sometimes move like 80 to 100 miles an hour, don't forget. And it can carry, you can carry things through and carry air masses. And it basically, as long as it's all moving in the same air mass, then that contrail location where the jet went through, even if it doesn't leave a contrail, will definitely go with it, and you'll see it happen. And Anand Drood says the atmosphere is a fluid. Well, yeah, effectively, it is. It's a low-density fluid. You can think of it as a fluid. Fluid dynamics are a little different, obviously, for the atmosphere versus for the water. But we actually do use the fluid dynamics for atmospheric studies because it does act like a very lightweight, low density fluid in a sense. So
Yeah. Rick says that he has a video on his channel, and the wave looks nothing like that. Well, for your one video, I have 60 videos that look exactly like that. It all got started by a guy named Crow, or it was it
was it Crow? I mean, he's
Dobu,
gone now.
Dobu.
He's gone.
Oh, it was one of them.
I think
Recorded
Crow,
one time, and nobody realized he lived right by an airport.
yeah, I think Crow actually passed away.
No, he didn't. Did he?
You sure? I think he's the one that did.
I hope not. He's very, very animated.
Yeah, he was. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, I don't think he passed away.
Well, I heard something about that. So
I
I'm not
know the guy that Secure Team gets most of his stuff from passed away.
Okay, maybe
Shoot,
that's right.
I forget his name escapes me right now. But he was the guy. He was doing a lot of UFO stuff, and
Yeah, you're right. I remember that.
yeah,
I
he
think
was.
confused with-
Secure Team was always picking up his stuff and
Yeah.
broadcasting it and whatnot. And I know that guy passed away.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
I don't wish anything. I don't wish evil and bad things on people that do that, even the hoaxers, because a street cap. You're right. Thank you, Dapple Ben. You're absolutely right. It was street cap.
That's what it was. Street Cap. Yep.
Thanks, Tommy. You're right. So yeah, you guys are right. Thank you. You're absolutely right. Okay.
Man, the moon's looking good tonight.
Yeah.
Jeez. So how was the old Devil Tower trip? I mean, did you guys get into trouble or?
Oh, not at all. I mean, the town of Hewlett, Wyoming, last year had only one police officer. Now it has two.
Uh-oh.
So I think that 4 more people came to the town or something because they were right at that point, where they need to.
Or like they had a cool kind of police officers with like cowboy hats and stuff.
Oh, actually, they don't. But
Okay.
Hewlett's like that. I mean, we were taken back to the airport in a blackout car, with the lights and stuff, and then we joked about it being, it's an undercover car for Hewlett, Wyoming, but it was actually just a Dodge Charger, souped up. And when we got in the car, the guy, that took us back, I want to mention his name because he's a great guy, but I don't want to get him in any trouble. He actually was getting us back. Let's put it this way: we left a little late and we got there early. But you have to understand the speed limits in Wyoming in many places are 80 miles an hour.
Nice.
And there was a couple roads I remember on the way back to Gillette from Hewlett where it gives you the infinity effect. And Dave Marler and his fiancee Kendra were in the car, and the 4 of us, along with this guy driving us, were going back to the airport. And I said, Dave, when we come down the bottom of this hill, I want you to look straight ahead. And you're going to get that infinity effect because this is the part of the road where it just goes on and on and on. It kind of looks like some of the scenes from Close Encounters.
Just a straight, barren road.
Barren perspective takes it right down to nothing. And we got on that, and man, when they looked at it, they were like, wow, check it out. I know. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't wait to get out there. It's gonna be a good time. And finally do it direct to scope with good internet.
Yeah. And if when you get to the tower and you get to some of the places to actually do viewing, as I said, you probably won't have Wi-Fi or wired where you want to go to get the best starry skies. However, don't let that dissuade you, because at least record it and then upload it.
Yeah.
It's really going to be great. And I think you can probably do Skype through your cell phone. And if you want, when you're doing that, if I'm around, or if I've made it to Arizona, because you're going exactly when I'm going to Arizona.
Yeah.
You'll
be down there training the MUFON people, huh?
Yeah, well, I'm first going down to do a talk on the 27th. Well, I'm leaving on the 26th to go down to Arizona. And I'll fly into Sky Harbor, which oddly is the name of the spaceship that landed at, Close Encounters of the Third Kind in that movie. It was called Sky Harbor. And the 27th, I think I do this talk for the Phoenix MUFON organization. And they run it very well. They probably have the best business model of any of the Mutual UFO Network chapters.
Yeah.
Lots of members, lots of money to bring out people and pay them to come out. I mean, really, really good. And then I'm going to stay with a couple of those folks for 2 or 3 days. I'm going to stay with a Gilbert police officer and her husband for several more days. And Alejandro Rojas and his girlfriend Karen, they want me to stay with them for a couple of days. So there's the wonderful thing, and I'm really humbled by it, is that there's never any shortage of people that just reach out and say, "Hey, come stay with us."
Yeah.
I love it. Either that, or people get bored or something in Arizona. But this is very busy areas of Arizona. These aren't starry sky locations. These are Mesa, Gilbert, and Phoenix. So it's not, they're not dark sky regions. But after I'm done staying with all these folks, then I'm going to be teaching, and along with others, the Mutual UFO Network's boot camp, field investigator boot camp. And that'll be like 3 days, 2 or 3 days, and that'll be a good deal. And in between all that time, one of the folks has actually let me have one of their cars to drive around Arizona to look at other properties and locations. So I'm gonna have a real busy 10 days.
Nice people.
They really are people. That's the thing. They really are real people, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's good. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I got to actually check to see. I meant to look at the moon calendar to see what the moon's status is at that point.
I should answer the guy earlier. I'm not sure who it was, but it was back up in the chat. Says, if we don't believe in none of that, what exactly are we looking for? We're looking for undisputable proof.
Yeah, it's not that we don't believe in it. It's just that you got to find proof of it, man.
I mean, it's nice to believe in all this stuff, but if it can be debunked, it has to be. That ire has to be entered into the whole complex idea. You can't just take it and believe it because you want to believe it. Yeah. There has to have data to back it up.
Yeah, there absolutely is.
So people with the with the lunar wave and everything else, you want to believe in this hologram or whatever else, but there is an explanation for it. It has been proven. It has been shown. Yeah,
you're right, and you can't ignore the possibilities. And you know what though? There's certain things that I'll say are most definitely something or another, like a certain thing, like we can determine, like the lunar wave is obviously an effect of the atmosphere. We have this very thick atmosphere between us and the moon. Things that disrupt the atmosphere will cross the moon at times and cause problems. Now, if people look at a cloud passing the moon and they don't think anything of it, why do they think something of it when it looks like it's a somewhat invisible thing, like a warm airstream from a jet contrail? Why is that not? Why is that an issue?
Lisa said, if you're all yapping, how can you truly focus on what you might not be seeing? I don't know, the 3 screens in front of me that are showing everything. That helps, kinda.
That's okay. I mean, I don't have any problem with people that want to argue about these things. It's fine.
I mean, what can I say? Call me multitasker. I can talk and look at a screen at the same time. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm a superhero. I have no idea.
Well, to answer Lisa Wadsworth, I'll say this: I'm also looking at the screen, and
Keith and Paul is looking at the screen.
Yeah.
And everybody watching is looking at the screen.
And what's he doing now? He's got Mars?
Yeah.
I can tell.
Yep. Got a
Looks
nice
really
little
good.
polar cap there.
Yeah, I see it. It actually looks pretty good. You can see now, you know, we had this bad dust storm on Mars. And
Yeah, it's finally settling down.
it's settling down now. Yeah, yeah. So, um, on the Sky Tour Radio on kgraradio.com, we did a show on the Opportunity rover in part. That was like one of the news items that I discussed up front. And we talked about how they
Time
are.
out. Time out. Fat boy. I know. I'm not trying to. I'm just saying that a quote unquote lunar wave can be caused by something 100 miles away. It doesn't have to be close. That's the point we're trying to make. It doesn't. If you're zooming in on the moon and see a lunar wave, in order to see that wave, you're only catching a degree of sky, if that, depending on how zoomed in you are. You know, the moon is only a half a degree of sky.
Well, the planes usually pass by several, you know, many. They could be passing by 10 degrees away.
Yeah.
But that warm air behind them persists for several minutes, and in that time, the air mass could easily drift in front of the moon, and does. So, I mean, I guess if you know what it is, I think you know, Fat Boy Studios, he's making these comments not to be argumentative. I can see that, but I am, you know, he is making these comments in order to just, I guess, raise the discussion. Okay, so we're raising the discussion. We're answering it. We know that the air masses move, and they kind of move in unison. They're not all big, you know, mixing like mixing chocolate milk up there. Okay, it's a, you know, these are stratified layers that move against each other. And the best proof of that I ever saw was when I was actually traveling in those air masses in a balloon, a hot air balloon, and we were up at about 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet. And in order to tell where we were going to go next, the guy running the balloon did this extremely high-tech maneuver to see where the air layers were moving fastest below us. He leaned over the side and he spit. And we watched his spit go down, and all of a sudden it went off to one side. And then he let the balloon, you know, brought it down a little bit, and that's the air mass that we entered. See, because they're in stratified layers, and it's like currents that move. You know, you have an undertow where you can sit on the surface and be just fine, but if you drop down 6 feet in the water, you'll be pushed out to sea at like 4 or 5 miles an hour, you know, because there's a current underwater that
Right.
is actually moving past you that you don't feel at the surface.
I should actually answer Strider Rider real quick. Where the hell to go? There we go. Crypto this summer. Too bright, too late. Oh, wait. It keeps moving up. Yeah, waiting for here fall. Yeah, Massachusetts is great. What imager are you using? It's awesome. It's normal. It's a normal solar system imager. The key is the camera, and Paul keeps that very close to the vest, if you know what I mean, because it is a custom-built camera for planets. It's not, you know, your normal solar system cam.
Yeah, I mean, Mars looks really nice right now.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah,
and he's using the 11-inch tonight.
Yeah,
and usually I don't like the 11-inch, but it seems to be, you know, pretty good. The 9.25 is probably my favorite, the most crisp, and then the 8-inch HD is really good as well. It's just the bigger you get, it's I don't know, it just gives it, I don't know, it almost looks worse.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially with local stuff. Like if you're doing like galaxies and stuff like that, then yeah, go big.
Yeah.
You know, what do you have there? 12, 10?
I have a 10-inch main scope. We have a 5-inch Richfield refractor also mounted on the same mount. So we can switch back and forth between those two. One's an f4 refractor. The other one is the f6.3 10-inch telescope. Catadioptric or Schmidt-Cassegrain. So that means folded optical path. The light comes in and bounces up to another mirror in the center of the glass corrector plate and goes down through the center hole in the mirror. So the path is folded. So it allows you to have a smaller building to house a bigger instrument.
Yeah. Yeah. And for anybody looking to do planets, like reflector telescopes are fine, but definitely recommend the refractors for planetary viewing.
Yeah. Lens systems are really good at giving you a sharp, clear image. And it's a matter of contrast as well as resolution.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, they got the Coronado double stack for the solar, which is great.
Yes.
Catching all kinds of stuff on that thing, which I got to have you review a couple things
Okay.
that happened in the last couple weeks. One is our awaited for 90-degree turn.
No way.
Yeah. Like literally zoom into frame and zoom 90 degrees in the other direction.
Okay. This I got to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really quite amazing. But I still have yet to isolate it because this week has just been absolutely crazy. So, but I will send it to you, and then you can analyze away. But it was really fast. It came zooming in, stopped, and then shot the other way, like all within half a second. It was just insane. And then I went and slowed it down, and it was still almost too fast to see it.
Well, I'm wondering. I know that things like an insect. I'm not saying that's what it was. 'Cause I haven't even seen it yet. But I know bugs can come in, and they don't necessarily have to shoot off in the same plane. They could like turn and come down toward the ground, which is toward you, but it appear to be going another direction. So, we don't see it in 3D. We just see the 2D projection of their motion. So it'd actually be interesting to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee because of its solidness, I can almost guarantee it's not a bug.
Well, you might only see the
because we were pretty zoomed in on the moon at the time.
Moon or the sun?
Or the sun, yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, no worries.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Cool.
Yep. And, of course, we had a couple satellites go by, and you can always really know them because they're at a constant speed and, linear path. So you can pretty much guess which ones are satellites.
Yeah.
Nothing like that big donut we called on the moon stream a couple weeks ago. That still is baffling me. And I'm not buying the whole balloons thing. Because, how many balloons can go past our... this little half a degree of sky we're looking at, in a year? It's like somebody must be down there just releasing balloons like crazy.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. You don't know how big that was.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
ain't saying it was a spaceship, but I sure as hell ain't saying it was a balloon either.
Yeah, well, I know. I remember seeing the donut and Kiko. That was weeks ago. It was in another stream. So.
Here come the clouds. Darn it! You knew they would be building in sometime.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll leave real quick. I should actually go down here and give a shout out to people in the chat. Let's see. Let me see what the participant list looks like. Oh, that's not bad. Let's see. We got Dapple and DJ and Gordon and Gustavo and JC, Jonathan, Kiko, Lord, Melissa, Jello, Nasiofio, I believe that is. Fatboy Studios, Tommy, Victor, and Winged Husa. That's who I have as active participants. Now there's probably more that are actually in the chat, but it only goes on people that have typed stuff. And of course, when I come back, I see Ann that's in there, and John. Anybody else I miss? Tron Man. Hello to everybody.
Anybody else?
Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's real big double talk. I've seen balloons. I just don't believe the donut thing was a balloon, that's all. I can't tell you what it was. I just don't think it was a balloon. That's all.
No, that's fair.
But I'm not going to sit here and shove it down your throat saying, it was this, it was this. Look at this. The moon's inhabited. Look at all the cities.
No, you can leave that to our friend at the other channel.
Yeah.
The green is grass.
The vegetation.
Yes. Vegetation arising out of Archimedes and Aristarchus.
I hope he does, though. I really hope that he captures something really good.
Yeah, well, if you look, sooner or later, you'll find something.
Yeah. I know he had Mr. Walson in an uproar.
He did? Why?
That John Walson can't get along with anybody, can he?
No.
My God. Poor guy.
What did he do?
Oh, I don't know. Well, of course, it didn't take him long to do something to Bruce. You know how John is.
Easy going, too. He's not like a guy that goes off the handle easily.
Yeah. Bruce is like kicked back and just, nothing really gets to him all that bad. And it's just, you can tell, like, John just, He just has that way, man. John Leonard Walson wants to be the biggest moon person on YouTube, and if you're doing like more than him, boy, I'll tell you what, the knives come out and in the back.
Yeah, right. Did you see when I started Sky Tour live stream? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
what happened? He suddenly just said he did another stream like right after mine, calling it Sky Tour live stream.
I know.
Hello. I mean, are you really that desperate? You've got to like steal somebody else's thoughts and
but he does, especially if he sees something that's working for somebody. Like Bruce has it. Like Bruce does his own thing. Okay, yeah, I don't agree with a lot of Bruce's, conclusions and whatnot, but I give him credit. He's out there. He's doing the work. Good for him. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
But if John sees something that's working with any other channel that's doing the moon, he just can't take it, and then he tries to copy it. And then one person in his comments one night told him, John, you should put some clickbait in the title to get more people in here watching you. And I don't know if John didn't understand what he was talking about, but literally the next video that John uploaded was named clickbait. Like the actual word clickbait was the title of the video.
Ooh.
And I was like, what?
Rick Dangerous wants to know who John is. John,
don't even worry about it, because John has this thing where he thinks the government's after him, and he thinks there's helicopters. The guy, he lives right by a military base, so he sees all these helicopters going over his house, and he tells people that that the military's attacking him and shining lights in his eye and all this other crap. And then he was doing a fundraiser for a van for like the last 3 years, trying to get a van to put his telescope in to take it out and whatever.
He was soliciting people to actually buy him a car, basically.
Yeah.
And on the pretense that he was going to take his telescope all over the place. He just wanted a portable observatory. He wanted something to carry his telescope around in. And so he was asking and begging actually people for money.
Yeah. And he says that these big giant spaceships are orbiting. That's his claim to fame. And he got mad because, he made this deal with some Hollywood producer that did, I think it was Aliens on the Moon. I think it's the same one you did, Mark.
Really?
And what was the guy's name? The producer of that?
Bob Kvyat.
Yeah, Bob Kvyat. And anyway, John thought he was going to make millions of dollars off of this footage, and, he didn't. And then he was trying to sell his footage to, like, Hollywood for, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and nobody wanted it. So he kept it, and, an astronomer out of France named Thierry Legault actually did. He actually wrote a bad astronomy blog on John. That he basically took his telescope. Thierry Legault did, and he's a real astronomer, and he unfocused like stars, like Vega and stuff like that. And I'll be damned, he made John Leonard Walson's ships by unfocusing his telescope.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, they're staying in one spot. They're hanging out. They're,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, and he posted the pictures online. And then there was a big thing at, there's a website called, what was it? Above Top Secret that they had way back in 2006 or 2007 that went in on John for his fakery. And then he was pretending to be somebody else and posting under another name to try to defend himself under that. Yeah. It's freaking crazy. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
And then he saw poor Bruce doing way better than he was.
And it would be no having that.
And then he started in on him. Oh, man.
He goes from one person to another. He realized he couldn't actually, I won't say compete. That's not the right word. He couldn't actually show the same value in the streams. For instance, when I did the Sky Tour live stream, he can't show the same value when you and Paul do these streams. And he did have a way to zoom in, and I can't take this away from him. He actually had a zoom capability for zooming into the moon that was really quite excellent.
Yeah, we agree. We both agree on that.
We originally wanted to include John in our group of close-knit folks that were doing this kind of thing. And so we invited him, and Keith remembers this. Keith actually invited him to come on and talk about his stuff.
Yeah.
And it just never happened because John became suspicious and everything about the motives, and and then we realized that this was John, trying to actually protect his interests and trying to make sure that we don't, as he was saying, steal his ideas. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to steal his ideas. Why would I want to steal his ideas? If he had good ideas, they're his ideas. I think there's plenty of ideas for everybody.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me, but people do that all the time.
Yeah. I kind of feel bad for the guy. I mean, but
yeah,
he pretty much brings it on himself. So what can you do?
Yes, he does.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah, so that's the whole thing. But yeah, I really do. I really want Bruce to continue what he's doing, and hopefully he'll catch something that'll even make me sit back in my seat and go, "Whoa, okay, let's check into this a little bit more." Now, a couple of things that I think Bruce should do,
Yeah.
to give it more legitimacy, is number one, put a clock. Doesn't matter where. I mean, even if he's pre-recording it, okay, cool. Put a clock and the time, and the date. So if he thinks there's something is by the moon, I'm pretty sure somebody else was recording the moon at that time.
Yeah.
So let somebody go and confirm it.
Yeah.
Let that confirmation process happen. That just gives him even more legitimacy. If two scopes catch it, one, he's in Canada and Paul's in Miami. If both of those scopes catch the same thing, guess what? It's near the moon.
That's right.
That's right. And the second thing I would advise him to do, and this is just for his own benefit, not for anybody else's, is to do it live. Yeah, because as soon as he catches something awesome, there's automatically going to be doubt put on him because he is the only one that has seen or touched that footage from the time it was taken to the time it was uploaded.
Yeah.
And that's going to cause, red flags to go up among any investigator. It doesn't matter, who it is.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Those are my two suggestions for him. If he could do those, that'd be awesome. Now, I realize not everybody has the capacity and everything to do the live stream, and it is a lot of work by yourself, no doubt. We get it.
I know that.
But, those, I mean, especially if you're diving into the UFO field, and everybody wants to find UFOs. Everybody wants to find that proof. We're here to find that proof. Take Back Space is there to find that proof. Even Walsam with his crazy ass is over there trying to find proof. I mean, he's making it up most of the time, but he's trying to find it nonetheless.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not a competition. It's not a competition between moon streamers. It's about getting the evidence. And if one can catch something and another one can verify it, guess what? You're on your way to something special.
Yeah, that's true. And I would love to know that people are taking the time to make these determinations and make them accurately. That's all. I'd love to make that. I'd love to see that be the case.
That's me too.
Not a big deal. That's so hard to ask.
Everybody just has a habit of turning everything into a competition.
Yeah, that's true.
We have people here who comes on and say, "You want to see real moon stuff? Go to Bruce Sees All." And then I see people on Bruce's thing. If you want to see real science, go to P and K. And it's like, why? Why make a competition out of it?
Yeah,
there's no point.
It's not really supposed to be a competition.
We're all looking for the same thing.
Yep.
We just have different ways of doing it.
That's right. There's people that do that. And Robert Marovich, Unacknowledged by Stephen Greer. To me, Stephen Greer is snake oil to me, because his claims don't stand up to the scrutiny of science. Now, people can claim, "Oh, but he had a geneticist do this, that, and the other." Yeah, you know what? With this Atacama humanoid thing,
I liked his first one before Unacknowledged. What was the one he did before that?
Serious Disclosure.
Yeah, because I liked all the people he talked to in there. Like, they were real people with real credentials. You know what I mean?
Yes, except he didn't use their exact conclusions.
Yeah.
No, I mean that Atacama humanoid was distinctly human. But that part was not really communicated.
Yeah, I don't care about any of that. I'm talking about like UFO sightings and people that have seen stuff like what's his name out there, military bases. Like the military people, I mean, they're held to a higher regard.
Yeah, but
You know?
you can't trust Stephen Greer because unfortunately,
Oh yeah,
um,
don't get me wrong. I don't trust Stephen Greer as far as I can kick him.
you know, which isn't very far. Because like I remember him on Vero Beach down in Florida, and he was running one of his $2,500 a head. Yeah,
$2,500 a head.
you got it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
Wait, is
when
this like what he does with the hippie sessions? Where it's, hey, if we go out in the middle of nowhere and sit in a group and all hum and whatnot, we'll have
yes,
aliens visit us.
that's right.
And he's charging $25 a head. Oh
$2,500 a head.
shit! I'm in the wrong business. Hey
I know.
guys, we're going out to Devil's Tower in Wyoming at the end of October. $3,000 a head.
To
We
call
can
in.
all sit in the group, roast some marshmallows, look up, and
Yeah,
probably see some alien crafts.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
yeah, and then during this Vero Beach encounter, there was an air guard doing a flare exercise off the coast. Now, whether he knew that or not, I don't know. But we saw the flares show up because someone was shooting video, and you're not supposed to do that either. But somebody was shooting video, and Greer saw these videos when somebody pointed, or saw the flares when somebody pointed them out. And what does he say? He says, "Oh, these are aliens." He goes, "These are not flares." In other words, I know they're flares, but these are not flares. These are not the flares you're looking for. He told them, "Welcome these creatures into your heart." In other words, welcome the flares into your heart.
Oh, can we stop with the aliens or demons thing? Ah, jeez.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
That's a whole new group lately. Aliens
eh,
are demons. They're sent by the devil. Just stop.
well, to me that's just archaic, non-intellectual statements. I'm sorry. I mean, that's people that don't understand science, have no desire. They say science is folly, okay? And then they always back it up with the truth, okay, in the written word, in all the holy books,
Yeah.
which were, by the way, transcribed word of mouth for centuries. So that keeps them accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be slamming anyone's belief system here, but honestly, it's better for us to stay away from belief systems when we're trying to do science. Because
I will have to disagree with Cameron. God made man, and angles are made out of pure light. They are stars. I don't think angles are made out of light.
I think he's seeing angels, right?
Oh, okay.
He didn't spell it right.
Seems legit.
Actually,
I don't know. Have a religion, great. As long as it makes you happy. That's, fine. You don't need angles. We get it. But
he means angels.
why
It's
why
angels. That's
yeah, well, just why do you have to preach? Why do you have to be a preacher?
Well, because they want to come here and show you the way. Don't you get it? I mean, I don't fault anyone for wanting to show people the way. I get it. All right, but I do want to make sure that you don't throw science under the bus, because that's not fair to the billions of people on this planet that practice the art of discovery of science. And I just can't abide people that completely ignore science. And when you tell them scientific results, they use totally improvable story and myth to counteract or to negate what you're saying from science fact.
Yeah.
I had an argument out at Devil's Tower with someone, good-natured argument. I never get into fights with anyone like this stuff. And the guy was saying that the Earth is only 6,000 years old. And I said, okay, what about fossils? Okay, and I was talking to David Marler about this, and he referenced the Lewis Black thing where Lewis Black says, "Okay, I have one thing to say to you, fossil," and he says, and if they keep persisting and saying the Earth is 6,000 years old, then just throw it like right over their head. He's of course showing lack of patience for people that don't admit that there are things on the Earth that we can't explain, like certain aspects of our development.
Here's a question for you, Mark.
What?
Fat Boy got a good question for you. Can you tell me why all the craters are the same depth?
Well, they're not. And you can prove this to yourself just by going to the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter quick map and using the toolbox that gives you the ability to draw a line through a crater and then see its profile. And you get the depths, and they're all different. They're
It's
all
a lot
different.
more about perspective, too.
It is. I mean, sure, when you're looking at the moon, some craters are actually rounded on the bottom. Those are the simple craters. And that's actually their style, their classification. And some craters are complex craters, and they have a central peak sometimes terraced rings around the outside edge. And then you have craters that are flat-bottomed, like Plato, because lava that was running along the surface of the moon after the impact filled in the crater and then cooled, and then was subsequently pulverized by further impacts. You got to understand, the moon has had literally many, many billions of impacts, probably trillions overall of impacts in its early start. Now, Robert also asks, if the moon's hollow, it rings like a bell when hit. Well, actually, the reason that it's ringing like a bell has nothing to do with the fact that it's hollow. It has to do with the fact that its core is no longer molten. So it rings like a bell because of that fact. People think bells are hollow, so they ring. Well, that's not what the ringing like a bell means in this context. All right. We get a semblance of that with the hard strata here on the Earth as well. In fact, seismologists have been using sound for decades and pounding these large sounds down into the Earth. And by the echo, we learned that the Earth's core was still molten, and that the mantle was molten. We actually figured this out via seismology and this type of approach. So the science of Earth science is so because we decided to exploit some techniques that we were provided with the science, and that shows us that the Earth is not hollow. The mantle is like a plasticky molten material. The core, the inner core of the Earth, is solid, but it's extremely hot, and the outer core is molten, and it's that outer core rubbing against the inner core. They move it two different directions. It generates electric fields and thus the magnetic field that protects us. So on the moon, we do the same thing. There's no magnetic field in the moon. There's no dynamo, that is not a inner core that's solid, an outer core that's molten, that's generating electric fields. You don't see that at all. So these are actually how it works. Okay, we see that the moon being solid, if you hit it, it will ring like a bell a bit, and we'll get a larger seismic return from a longer distance because there's nothing to obstruct it. When you just if you have an impact on one side of the moon, you will possibly hear it elsewhere on the moon, and you will hear it reflecting. And we hear that to some extent with the Earth, but it's muted by the fact that the mantle is still semi-molten and that the cores are very, very hot, with the outer one being molten. And as far as craters, okay, when you look at the craters, you say, wow, they're all round. How could all the impacts be coming straight down? They're not. Okay, let's look at Aristarchus. Aristarchus crater is not a crater that shows an even distribution of material, is it? It's round. However, Aristarchus is also a crater that has this large plateau to its eastern side. And that eastern side of Aristarchus has that large table plateau there because that was stuff that was ejected from the angular impact that created that crater. That stuff was just shoved right off to the side and made that big apron off of Aristarchus. And of course, it's a bright white material.
Robbie Kirby asked, the moon is smaller than Earth, yet riddled with craters from impacts. Why don't we see this many craters, these shapes on Earth? Well, you can have a couple things. Number one is weather. We have weather here. Number two is we have giant oceans.
Yes.
And number three is we do have craters here on Earth. You usually can't see them because we have a thing called grass.
Actually, though, you know what? To answer that in a way that
you can answer it scientifically. I'll just answer it smart-assingly.
You can be. But see that actually everything you said is correct. And in addition, if you want to really see the impacts on the Earth, all you have to do is go to Google Earth and, well, first look up the KMZ file, .kmz, that you can import into Google Earth that shows you all the impacts here on this planet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And when you see that there's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of impacts on this planet that are still visible, you'll be amazed. Now, yes, weathering can get rid of craters on this planet in short order. What's short order? 5,000 years, 500 years. Okay. Depends on the nature. If they hit in the ocean, well, then you have to understand that depending on the energy they had when they struck, then they might hit as if there was no ocean at all. They go right to the bottom. Okay. They would vaporize a huge chunk of the ocean floor, including themselves. And then the ocean would eventually come back and fill those in. All right. And then with the erosion and everything, then any seamounts created by such an impact would then be wiped away over time. And what's time? Well, there we're talking maybe like 100,000, 200,000, a million years. And when I was at Devil's Tower, I did my talk, and I actually did the talk on I actually did the toilet paper routine, I call it.
You did the toilet paper routine out, and
I did. I wrapped my whole audience in toilet paper by the end of it.
Yeah, nothing says respect like wrapping your audience in toilet paper.
That's right. And it was the history of the Earth on toilet paper from when it was formed to that day in the room. And I update it all the time. And right near the end, there we were in that room, that is the point at which, for instance, the Atlantic Ocean opened up and the Red Sea opened up when India collided with Asia.
You're talking like the last few sheets.
Yeah, the last few sheets. And so in that amount of time, all right, any impacts that occurred before that in those areas would have just been cleaned, wiped out, because the Earth has a tectonic system. So on the moon, which does not have a tectonic plate system, then the impacts wouldn't be destroyed. The impacts wouldn't be covered over. The impacts wouldn't be eroded away, obviously with no atmosphere, no erosion. So we're seeing the pristine moon. When we look at the moon now, we're seeing it as it was, nearly as it was, back when the Earth formed and after the era of bombardment. And that's 3 billion years ago we're seeing back to with the moon. So, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty important.
Yeah. So you think there's any moon bases up there, buddy?
Well, I can't rule out that aliens may have found a place to view us. The only problem is the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has been viewing the moon at a very, very high resolution, and everywhere on the moon has been covered now. Everywhere. Yeah. So, and then people just...
But you know what to say, yeah. NASA covered it up, so, I mean...
But think about it. Why would they cover it up?
You have to admit, though, the backside of the moon, the far side of the moon, would be a pretty good place for aliens to set up shop, if you know what I mean. If they wanted to monitor, these stupid humans down here.
Yeah, no, and I've said that before. If I was an alien race, I would set my base up at the terminator of the moon. That is to say, not the terminator, but the point at which the far side begins and the near side just ends, so that they could always keep an eye on us.
That'd be kind of hard with that little wobble.
Well, yeah, vibration and so forth will cause that problem, but you just have to be, beyond that. All right. Mm-hmm. And you could do that. And then you could expend less energy to go up into the exosphere, around the moon, and look around. The trouble is, I would think that a race that has done that can actually set up shop here on this planet. And they would look at our planet, look at us from space, and say, well, these guys don't ever get in the water. Yep. They have a few little things in the water, but we can certainly avoid those.
They found out how to split an atom, and now they're going to kill themselves.
Yeah. And this, when I was at sea as a guest on the Navy ship, Navy boat, actually, submarine, we had an unknown submerged object come racing through the sonar, and it moved at several hundred knots, according to the sonar technician and according to the folks that looked at it. And the executive officer of the boat just said, well, log it and dog it to the kid running the sonar.
Yeah.
And he did that because they didn't know what it was, but they knew that they were out there. They have a program to just catalog these things. It comes down to this thing where, like, someone who just, say, watches lightning for a hobby or a living, okay, just catalog the lightning strikes. We certainly can't stop them. We certainly can't divert them. We can't do anything about it, but just catalog them all. And then you'll have a nice big catalog of lightning strikes. Well, in the same way, and I'm using it as an example, in the same way, someone is definitely interested in these what they call the fast movers, and it's part of the fast mover program. And hey, David Schmidt, hey there, how you doing? And welcome back, man. And I think that when we look at the submarine forces around the world, the Russians had already admitted that there were many unknown submerged objects that they've been cataloging for years. So clearly stuff is going on.
So what personally, what do you think about the stories from astronauts?
Well, I think that astronauts are former Air Force personnel, okay?
Right.
So to that end, none of them knew what to expect going into space. And I knew that some of them said, oh, look, they look like fireflies. Well, actually, those fireflies may very well have been ice chips, for instance. And that's a number of the theories say that that's probably what it was, because they don't have any experience with this stuff, then. Now they have more experience with that. And they are very good at determining what these things are. Plus, you got to understand, back then all we had was film, and we had very fuzzy transmissions that were live, and then only when ground stations could pick them up. They went dark sometimes. So because they were like over the Pacific, deep Pacific, or the Indian Ocean, Southern Indian Ocean, where we didn't have any kind of setup. On Diego Garcia, there's receiving stations, and that's in the Indian Ocean. But before that, then there was none of this. So there were points in their orbits where they weren't in communication.
Yeah, but I mean, you have like astronomers like Edgar Mitchell.
Yeah.
That is steadfast in their belief.
I mean, astronaut.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay.
That are steadfast in their beliefs. And then you hear some radio transmissions, from the Apollo missions.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you think. Were they talking in code? Was there a secret channel? Obviously, I mean, the first thing I would do if I was in charge of a sending somebody to an unexplored area would have a back channel, especially if you were planning on doing it live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, keep in mind also that they probably did have a private channel for communications, and it wasn't the kind of channel that would be used for secrecy. It was the kind of channel to be used for mundane things that they didn't want the Russians to hear.
But you had two guys in, I forget what country, that were actually getting the radio.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody got the radio. Everyone had it. It wasn't just, it was Russia was hearing every single thing the astronauts were saying.
Even the back channel.
Of course, they knew everything that was going on. Remember, they had spies here before all this. They knew all those back channels. And the thing is, if there was anything going on that the United States discovered up there, the Russians would have called it out in a heartbeat, because they'd want to essentially spoil our fun. And here's the other thing that the conspiracy guys who think we never went to the moon, this is a little aside, don't understand. The Russians were listening to every single one of our transmissions coming from the moon. They knew that these transmissions were coming from the moon. They knew we were really there. If we were faking it, they would have delighted in letting everybody know. And trust me, it's not like they're in cahoots with us.
Russia would love it. China would love it.
Exactly. At that time, they would not have kept any of those secrets. And in fact, today they would still not keep those secrets.
No, definitely not.
Exactly.
Now there was a somebody had asked earlier about the Apollo 20 thing where they recovered a female. Now this has been proven time and time again to be a hoax, but um, yeah, it was done by a guy, um, not I want to say model maker, but it wasn't a model maker. It was a what do you call them? My brain isn't working right now.
What are you talking about?
The mannequin. You probably don't even pay attention to it because you probably didn't even come across it.
I don't listen to the silly stuff.
Well, I'm just putting it out there. Anyway, the Apollo 20 thing where they supposedly found a female alien sleeping in hibernation or whatever, yeah, it was proven a hoax.
Oh, no, that was real. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was proven a hoax.
Well, when someone, has those types of claims, remember, extraordinary claims need extraordinary proof. And under the auspices of today's technology, such extraordinary proof has to, make it through several layers of scrutiny. All right, and that scrutiny would involve obviously not just studying any kind of video, but studying any of the data associated with the video, studying the origin story of the video, studying the supposed what's the word? The supposed classification of the video, and the chain of authority that the video took to become public. All those things are very important.
Yeah. There's our old friend Ballbuster. Why does SpaceX use Apollo rockets?
They don't use Apollo rockets.
Hey, Ballbuster said it, so it's got to be true.
Oh, no, they don't use Apollo rockets. They created their own rockets, actually. Apollo rockets could never do what those rockets do. I mean, think about it. I mean, you're
talking about the same guy that I spent an hour trying to convince that the sun or the moon does rotate. And even after showing him exactly how it's done, he still doesn't believe it.
A great animation that shows that for us to see the same side of the moon means that as it goes around the Earth in its orbit, it has to be rotating at just the right speed so that it goes around once for every orbit around the Earth. Now, that may seem so coincidental, but the fact is, it's not a coincidence. It's just a consequence of physics. Yep.
Just how it is. And then he gets mad because it's an animation. Yeah, because we're gonna go out there and film it for you. Come on, dude.
Yeah, and Robert's right. It's tidally locked, and tidal locking occurs with planets that are too close to their star too. I mean, just look at Mercury. Mercury shows a semblance of tidal locking. And that's true. There are some moons that show tidal locking to the planet.
And I have to say this once again, as I have to do every time. Your non-understanding of how the science works is not evidence against it. Realize that.
Well, I mean, that's correct for people out there. And I'm okay with people wanting to ask a question to learn, but if they, if they just outright dismiss you without doing any of the right stuff and I use the right stuff as sort of a little colloquial term for the astronauts years ago. If they're not going to do the right stuff and find out whether what you're saying is true, then I stop talking to them. I just sort of quietly go away, because if they're not going to listen, well, what's more important to me is not trying to convince them, but trying to convince those that they're talking to. Because talking to are the ones that could be
you can tell somebody that has like a real, honest, intriguing question about it than somebody that's just trying to, I'll get them with this question.
Yeah.
They can't answer this one. And it's usually the flat earthers that do it, They're notorious for throwing out that kind of wisdom. But
Hamburger University, that's kind of funny there, Righteous.
Hamburger wisdom. Looks like we're on the wide field for the rest of the night. Must have went down where air's a little too active for the big scope. It's looking like anyway.
Well, but see, if you put on the big scope and you do the nice close-ups, then that gives people an opportunity to look for these lunar waves.
Well, the lunar wave itself was caught on. Well, he was actually doing I believe he was doing a full moon shot at the time, the first one.
Yeah, I mean, and you probably wouldn't even see it on a close-up. It might come through the field so fast, it might just look like a little bit of disrupted air, and unless you actually saw the pattern. But it's usually on shots like the one that's on there right now that we would actually see the lunar wave more clearly.
Yep.
Because the altitude.
And we've seen them go past. And once again, there's an airport 3 miles from Paul. You know, the other day on the solar stream, scared the living crap out of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, scared the ever living crap out of us. I'm sitting here watching the screen real close, and look at this. You'll see it come up on screen. Absolutely scared the living crap out of me.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at it up close.
Yeah.
It happens, you know. And the thing is, you're not really far from an airport, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
You know, and if you are in a place really remote, you probably don't have the internet to be streaming.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was from the solar stream.
I think that's funny. You told me about this the other day. Now people look at this and they'll say, "Wow, that can't be really a plane. That's got to be a hologram. Look at those tail fins. They look transparent." Because they look like they're brighter. But obviously, people don't understand how cameras work a lot of times, and that's not their fault. But if you explain why the image looks the way it does, and they still don't want to buy it, well then, I can't help with that.
Yeah. Jeez Louise. I'm just reading the chat. We were crazy. You guys are nuts.
What photo was there that...
I used that boob photo? I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah. I don't know what he means.
Sanguinate tells you to get some lozenges. You're annoying him.
I'm so sorry.
Get some water, you freak.
It's hard when you don't have a vocal cord.
Yeah, it's got to be hard when you talk for a living and you just got done doing 3 days of.
Yep.
And then you come here and say, "Yeah, we'll talk for 20 minutes." Well, it's been an hour and a half now.
Is it really?
I think so. It's almost 11. It's darn close anyway.
Yeah, it is. It's actually,
All right, let's see. Who we got in the chat? Here we go. Shout outs in the chat again. Let's see. Participants. Let's run down this list again. I'll give you guys a minute, just in case.
Give them a chance to put something in.
Give them a chance to put something in. You got it.
Cool.
I was on Bill's channel the other night. He actually was doing a Skywatch back on the Skywatch channel.
Yeah. Oh, no way. He got it back?
Yep, he got it back, so he's now streaming back on that channel again.
I was talking to him today, and I didn't hear him say that.
Yep. That's where it was. So he's being careful about copyrighted music. So in the chat, we have... Let me go up here, just like that. There we go, just like that. There we are. We have Dapple and DJ and Gordon and Gustavo and JC, Jonathan, Kiko, Lord, Melissa, Jello, Nacio Fio, Fat Boy, Tommy, Victor, and Wing. That's who I have as participants actually in the chat itself.
It's funny. She says you were a traitor in Bill's chat.
She got mad we beat him in Family Feud.
That's funny.
Yeah. I'm not sure how long Paul's going to go tonight.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't sent me any texts or anything saying that he's rapping. He's probably kicking back on his couch, watching for objects.
DJ saying, anyone heard of cities on the moon? Well, no. I mean, there have been science fiction and so forth before anybody knew anything about the moon. They think, oh, hey, there must be all kinds of, cities, domed cities on the moon. Well, I know that when I did Aliens on the Moon, which is on Netflix, embarrassingly, there's a lot of crater images that we were being told are really domes, and they didn't want to know anything about the reality of figuring out that these were actually craters. They didn't want to know that at all. They wanted to just keep saying these were domes.
Hold on, time out. I have to address Michael Wisdom. The man missing the Mars leak footage first 3 minutes. That he got a lot of people with that, man. That video was done by a guy by the name of the Faking Hoaxster, and he did a complete Mars thing. And the way you can tell is the radio transmissions that he's using is actually from one of the Apollo missions.
Ooh.
He edited all the footage. He put Mars out the windows. He did all that, and that's what he does. He's the same guy that got what was the guy's name? The dark sky guy out in Arizona a couple years ago to put this NASA space shuttle blown up in orbit. You know,
Yeah.
What's NASA not telling us? Blah blah blah. Yeah, that's Faking Hoaxster. It's CGI. He did that, and he's really really good at it. And he makes a living off of totally tricking people, and it works. And man, you have all these UFO channels that jump on it and then edit out his, watermarks and everything like that. But yes, the Mars leaked footage, quote unquote, is done by a guy by the name of the Faking Hoaxster, and he's really good at it. You should actually check out his channel. Really good stuff. You'll probably see a lot of UFO videos that you've seen on some of these really popular UFO channels being passed off as real UFOs. Most likely, they probably come from him.
Yep. Yep. And Righteous, you're right. I was on In Search Of. I did the episode of, I think, well, they called it Aliens Among Us. I don't know if that's what it was when it finally came out, but I did do that episode of In Search Of recently.
Anyway, back to Aliens on the Moon. This is the one where they, you gave them explanations for everything and they totally didn't use any of it, right?
Yeah. I even created lunar soil with the exact, well, not exact because I'd have to use fine, sharp glass for the real soil. But I did use soil that had the same static charge properties. I created soil that actually had the same powdering consistency and clumping characteristics especially. And I showed them how certain things could be made to look like they do in some of the photographs that we see from the moon. And coupled with very high contrast film, where they shot for the bright areas on the moon, the dark areas of the moon were always in shadow.
Fat Boy, that's what he's talking about right now.
And the shadow itself would be, and Dave Schmidt asked me a question earlier about that I want to get back to if I can. And that's, and we'll get to that. And the shadows, for instance, that are in some of these artifacts on the moon, some of these things that are supposed to be like bridges on the moon and so forth, these are created by, for instance, two valleys side by side that have ridges on top, of course. And when the sun is at a low angle, the nearby valley is fully illuminated and you see, the ridge and everything. But then there's a dark area as the next valley occurs, because that ridge from that other valley, that ridge at the top of the other valley is blocking the light from going into this other valley. And so that looks black. And then the ridge of that valley is all you see. And so it looks like a bridge. And I said, no, I can show you exactly how that works. And I did. I set up a whole experimental setup in my studio here, in our visual effects studio, and I showed them how that works. And, it took me quite a while to set up this stuff, get the right composition for the material. And when I showed them the setup, they basically said one sentence. They said, yeah, that won't make it into the show. Yeah, fine. You still paid me. Damn right. You're going to pay me so what?
Yeah. And you know what? And it's like, how do you know, what the moon dust is, because we know the composition of it. We knew the damage that it did to the astronaut suits.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was Schmidt, right? Harrison Schmidt. Actually, not David Schmidt, but he'd love to have been to the moon, I'm sure. But I think it was Schmidt that tried to, when he tried to do his last moonwalk, he couldn't because the ankle location on his suit was cut through right to the insulation because of the caustic nature of this glass, which is the moon dust, basically. It's not glass, but it's like they're very sharp particles. And maybe Harrison Schmidt was shuffling his feet too much in the dirt, and it ended up cutting his suit. He could have ended up, dead from that. So they chose not to have him go out for his final walk on the moon, which I think was probably wise. And I just want to answer Dave Schmidt's question. Dave Schmidt asks, could I talk a small bit about the instruments used to measure stars' distances and chemical composition? Now, actually, I did a Sky Tour radio on that very thing. And it's on kgraradio.com in the archives. Anyone can listen to our previous shows for free. And it was the Cosmic Distance Ladder episode. All right. Now, but I'll just summarize. For nearby stars, we use something called parallax, which is that property that we use to determine nearby. Because if you hold your hand out at arm's length with the finger sticking up and you blink your left eye and right eye, you'll see that your finger shifts against something farther away. And that shift is called parallax, and we can measure the angle of that shift. Now, if the distance from your left eye to your right eye is the distance from one side of the Earth's orbit to the other, and the finger at arm's length is the nearby star, and the wall behind it is the distant stars, you can see how this works. You measure that angle of movement the star makes, and that gives you its distance. And it's simply the way it works out is it's simply 1 over the angle. All right, measured in arc seconds gives you the distance to the star, and the distance. Exactly. Let's see. David did that experiment. Very good. That's exactly what you do. And if you did that with just a little bit more science, you could actually determine the length of your arm, from this parallax angle, which is kind of cool. And that would be like a smaller scale experiment that we did on the full scale to get the distance of the stars. I actually worked in the parallax program, all right, for when I was going through college to get my degree. I actually did work in that parallax program. Now, Mark, is that effective in units as large as? Well, yes, it is actually very effective. In fact, we use a unit called parsecs to determine
Star Wars.
No.
When the kettle run in parsecs.
The Kessel run was in like a number of parsecs. I read some arguments about why that's a correct statement. It sounds like he's saying it in time. Like we did the Kessel run in like 20 hours or something. That would make sense. But to say he did the Kessel run in just like some parsecs, then what they're saying is, did he make a shortcut? Did he take a shortcut and do it in a smaller number of parsecs, or did he, bend space in such a way, did he warp in such a way that he got there in a shorter distance or something? So I've read those arguments. But going back to what Dave was asking, for stars that are not nearby, we have to use something else, and that something else turns out to be in one case a variable star. Variable stars are stars that vary in their brightness, and when we look at these variable stars, we'll find that many times they will have a pattern that we can see that's always the same. That pattern is that they blink, they vary in brightness by a certain amount of time, and it turns out that certain amount of time corresponds to an intrinsic brightness for this star. What's that mean? It means that we know the actual brightness of the star by knowing how long it takes for it to go from dimmer to brighter. Okay, this has been a constant throughout the universe. So we use these as what are called standard candles. So these standard candles, and for those listening, this is for David Schmidt, who's a teacher in Bangkok. So we're actually, helping to kind of teach a little class for him, and this is to help him out. So bear with me for a minute. So the standard candle of these variables, sometimes called Cepheid variables, that's Cepheid, named after Delta Cephi, the first Cepheid variable found. These variables, their luminosity is known based on their fluctuation period, how long it takes them to go from dim to bright and dim again. Right? And from that, we know their brightness, and from that we can figure out their distance. And we use this for figuring out distances to other stars in our Milky Way, to stars that are in other galaxies, and even further sometimes. So the Cepheid variables work within our galaxy and outside our galaxy. There's other things we do within our galaxy. We do something called curve fitting, which we can do this with clusters of stars, like the Pleiades. The Pleiades, you say, well, how far away are they? Well, they're all stars that are fusing hydrogen into helium. So because they're doing that, we know that they're on something called the main sequence. That is normal stars doing normal operations. So we compare another cluster that we know the distance to by plotting it on a diagram, and then plotting the Pleiades, say, on the diagram. And we won't know how far the Pleiades are, but we do know how far the other ones are. And the separation between the Pleiades plot and the known cluster plot will give us the distance to the cluster and of the stars. And that's another one we do. And then farther than that, for galaxy clusters, like and so forth, well, we know that certain stars will go supernova in a certain way. And that supernova is called a Type 1A supernova. That's when you have a white dwarf in orbit around another star. And sooner or later, it's going to start getting material from that main star. And when that happens, the white dwarf gets pushed past the limit, right? And that particular limit will cause that white dwarf to explode. Guess what, though? That particular limit happens the same way every time, and they always go to about the same brightness. So, again, it all comes down to the brightness. If we can get that brightness, then we can measure the distance to galaxies that are tens of millions of light years away. And I think or hundreds of millions of light years away. So that's the expanding ladder. And beyond that, even, we use something called Hubble's law. And that has to do with redshift. That is, all things farther away from us are moving faster and faster and faster away. And what people don't understand about that, Amanda, my co-host, made a nice little video showing what it is what that means. If you have a balloon and you blow it up and you put little dots all over the balloon, okay, and you say, okay, one of those dots is us, and these other dots are all these other galaxy clusters farther away, and you continue to blow up the balloon, what happens? Every dot moves away from every other dot. Okay, that was actually that experiment, not the balloon, but looking at the sky. Edwin Hubble noticed that, and he figured out that the universe is expanding this way. All right, and it doesn't matter where we are in the universe. Everywhere we are, everything else is moving away from us, except nearby galaxies. We're kind of gravitationally bound. So it's kind of cool, and that's the cosmic distance ladder. So if you want, and this is to David, you can go check it out on our archive at kgraradio.com, and you can hear that show. I think playing it for your class might be a very valuable thing to do. So anyway, that's enough of that. If you have any other questions, let me know. But I don't want to dominate, Keith's stream with Star Talk. We're here with a moon to look at too, right?
What? Oh,
Yeah,
hey, yeah. Welcome back.
Yeah.
You lost me when you said, "Let me put it this way." I was lost ever since then.
Yes, David. Cosmic distance ladder.
Yep. Anyway, there's your lesson for today.
I know. I can't help it. It's just like this stuff is cool. I mean, the moon, and you're recognizing the history. In my toilet paper history of the Earth, the moon is a few sheets from the formation of the Earth. And when you look at how the moon formed, you realize that it formed many, many billions of years ago, just after the Earth did, probably from an impact. And part of the problem we have is the moon's composition is very much like the Earth's. But the main theory is that the moon was born out of an impact with a Mars-sized object, something that hit the Earth, something that's different composition, possibly, from the Earth. So wouldn't we expect to see the moon was composed of partially that object as well as the Earth object? But we don't, and that's part of the problem we see now. Billions of years in vacuum with radiation, very, very powerful radiation hitting your surface, is going to cause you to look gray and pretty well desiccated, like the moon. So I think that it makes sense that when you look at the moon from the outside, you say, well, wait a minute, that doesn't look anything like on Earth. But you have to understand that the Earth has an atmosphere, and the stuff that we see on Earth has the benefit of being protected by an atmosphere overhead, and we have organic material in our soils. So we have brown soils, very brown soils. Well, the moon, are you using black and white tonight, by the way, Keith?
What's that?
Are you using black and white, by the way, tonight?
I didn't even check truthfully.
Huge.
I'm not even running the color tonight. He is, so if it is, it's
okay. Well, the moon has other.
Yeah, he's running black and white.
That's what I thought, because I don't see any color in this moon. Usually, you can see colors in the moon, and it's pretty interesting. And Keith's trying to, show you that. But I know that you have a bunch of different colors in the moon. There's white soil, there's orange soil here, there's browns, and the magmas. That is the lava that you see, which is the darker areas on the moon, the Maria, so to speak, the seas, are of different compositions, and you can actually see the borders of the different compositions of the Maria by looking at the moon. And that's just basically different lava flows that's the one over the surface of the moon at different times, and possibly slightly different compositions. But again, all compositions that are like materials on the Earth. Okay, you're going to find olivine on the moon. You're going to find other rocks and minerals on the moon that we have on the Earth as well. So it's important to understand that this is sort of a divergent spot.
Do you think we should go back?
We will be going back because.
I know, but do you think?
Of course.
Do you think we should concentrate on the moon before we concentrate on Mars?
I do, actually, and the reason I do is because of the fact that we have a lot to learn yet about going planet to planet, especially with any kind of presence. And I think we can go to the moon. We can exploit being at the moon, exploit creating bases there, get some refinery facility.
So basically like a proving ground a lot closer to home.
Absolutely. Now, keep in mind that Mars being so far away isn't necessarily the problem. It's not. I mean, we can get to Mars with people. If we're going to go to Mars, we have to use the same sort of technology to go to the moon and create a kind of human presence there that can stay there for any significant amount of time. We still have to generate oxygen. We still have to find water. We can't bring all this stuff with us. We got to make it when we're there. Right. We still need to do that on Mars.
But there's a good chance we could do that on the moon, though, right?
Well, sure. we
could solidify that technology there before we start looking towards Mars.
That's right. It'll be cheaper to get to the moon, all right, and maybe a little easier to land on the moon because there's no atmosphere, so we won't have to, do anything about the atmosphere. But we are going to have to care about the fact that we won't have an atmosphere that can help slow us down. On Mars, we use parachutes to actually slow down. Because you don't show up at the planet and just sort of ease into Mars orbit, okay? We don't just ease in. We've got to actually
kind of like you just don't ease into Earth's orbit.
Exactly so.
Or Earth's atmosphere.
That's right. And I'm not even gonna give this guy. Thank you,
don't even bother.
She's gone. Very well done. Okay.
Flurfers unite. Shut up.
No, Flat Earth. No, don't you understand? They have members from all over the globe.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, and like a boat docking, yeah. I mean, the thing is that you have to slow down before you can actually land, right? And when you go into orbit around the moon, you're going to be orbiting at a certain distance, at a certain speed. Well, how do you brake? How do you slow down? Well, on the moon, you can only do that by turning around the opposite direction and firing your rockets. And the reason for that is because at the slowest orbital speed you can go on the moon, you still have to slow down a huge, significant amount in order to actually land. All right. So that said, if we were to go to the moon, we're going to have to bring a lot of rocket energy in order to slow down and stop. On Mars, we just need a little, because the Mars atmosphere can actually slow us down significantly. And if you remember the manner in which the rovers were delivered, okay, that was the sky crane. The sky crane had big parachute, and the aero shell with the rover inside was parachuted down. And then as soon as it got close, the parachute was jettisoned, and the sky crane fired its rockets and lowered the rover down on cables, cut the cables once it touched down, and then the sky crane rocketed away and crashed. All right. And now the rover was there. So you're ready to go. Well, that process, you can't use that at the moon. You can't do that on the moon. All right. And so sadly, you're stuck doing other ways. And so whereas it's easier to land on Mars, Mars is also very, very far away. And you need more transit supplies getting there. But you also have to probably be manufacturing those supplies on the way as well, which means you have to have lots of raw materials on board to do that with.
Who is the dumbass that's pushing this firmament thing? Seriously.
I don't see it. Why? Where is it?
Oh, so many people with this dumb firmament. You go up, they see one rocket that quote unquote hits the firmament. Especially there's a big glass dome. I feel stupid just saying it.
Yeah, I saw that, and it wasn't hitting. It wasn't hitting a dome. It was clear what happened to it. If anyone cares.
It was clear for most people, but
that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, man, I don't know why people. Well, look, you know what? There's 228 people watching right now, right? So, of them, a few are going to come in and just like troll.
Firmament.
Yeah, right. Firmament.
Firmament.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Rick.
Sheeple. We're sheeple. We are from the sheeple society.
Actually, I'd like to ask Karen a question. Karen, can you give me an idea of what your science degree is in, please? Karen Cardona, sheeple, that's what you all are. Okay, I want to know your science degree, please. We'll wait.
Yeah.
It's still your turn.
Quick. Google a science degree.
I'm just waiting. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame. I mean, who do you blame? Education?
Well,
do you blame, people for being so, like wanting to believe something? And of course, a lot of people want to believe something that's not of the mainstream, if you know what I mean. So they get sucked up into this flat Earth crap.
Yeah,
and this firmament bull.
But wait a second.
And the internet, yeah, you can blame the internet. I was
going to say that.
Toad.
It's actually social media and basically YouTube. YouTube has anything for anybody all the time at any time. And anyone that has any kind of a conspiracy can probably find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And what they use is they think, I thought that too. It must be true.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking to confirm their beliefs. Or just cross-confirming each other, which seems to be a good thing.
All right. Yeah. Okay, slave. Yeah, go ahead. Ask your question. He says, can I ask something, please? All right, well, fine. If it's a real
Ask away.
Ask away.
Ask away.
Yeah. Ask away. And
be like, where's the firmament?
That'd be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we saw the hello. Yeah. All right, good. So go ahead and ask us the question. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, this will be the last question, too, because Paul's about ready to wrap.
Oh, he is? Okay. All right, so when you get out, like I said, and while we're waiting for Slave to ask this question, I just want to tell you, when you're ready to go to Devil's Tower, let's have a serious conversation, because I can save you an awful lot of effort in trying to find some of the good stuff out there to look at. And if you're out there, you might as well go to the fossil beds, too. You've got to go.
Dude, we'll be going everywhere. We're out there for over a week.
So I was there for 5 days and barely got to the tower.
Yeah, but you had obligations.
Whatever.
We don't. We're going to be exploring like mofo. Plus, we got 4-wheelers. And we got all the 4-wheeler parks we need to go to, too.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I don't see Slave's question anywhere. So, here. What is the moonlight? What? 'Cause, 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 Oh,
Uh,
don't tell me he's a gravity denier. Yeah.
yeah, I don't
So,
know.
was this
I don't know.
well, look at it this
Hey.
way, and I'll say something here that people like that, if that's what he is, won't believe either. Believe it or not, water does stick to the planet because of gravity. And when I watched this video, this guy saying, "Here's why water can't possibly be in the oceans," and he puts water on a ball and spins the ball fast, and of course it flies off.
Jeez.
Wow.
I'm just I get amazed every night.
And they don't have any idea how gravity works and how it's related to mass.
No, because it's just a theory. Gravity's
Yeah.
just a theory.
Gravity's just a theory, rather, and it's like,
Yeah.
And Dave, I'm glad you found that infographic on the cosmic distance ladder. If you got any questions, you can ask me offline too. You could go to my email with Gmail, which is MUFON Analyst. And I'd be happy to help you and give you some more class materials that might be helpful to you.
Fat Boy earlier wanted to know why they couldn't put a rover on a comet and record the videos and sound.
Well, videos for one, we did actually, and that was the Rosetta mission to Churyumov-Gerasimenko, Comet 67P, and the Rosetta mission delivered Philae, Philae, lander. And the problem is comets don't have a lot of gravity, so when the Philae lander went down to land on it after being jettisoned from the Rosetta orbiter, it actually ended up needing hooks to basically bolt itself basically to the comet. Trouble was it didn't work, and so when it hit, it tried to set off the bolts, but all it did was send the comet back up into the air many kilometers, and then it came back down, bounced again, because again, the comet's gravity is so low that it bounced like 3 times, I think, and then it became wedged in a crevice. And when it was wedged in this crevice, they thought they lost it for good. And it turns out that on several subsequent photos taken of the comet, you could see Philae inside one of the crevices. It was the best photo I ever saw. It was cool. Taken by Rosetta. So, and it's sad. It was sad.
I think that's where we're going to wrap it for tonight.
All right.
I think we'll leave it at that.
That's Keith saying he's tired.
No, it's just kind of baffled just by people. But yeah, thanks for joining us, people. Looking for anomalies on the moon and Saturn and Mars. And for anybody that was asking the lunar wave question that was answered earlier, anybody asking about, we covered a bunch of topics tonight. Yeah. All the ones that I see people like double posting about. But yeah.
And so David, you can contact me at that MUFON Analyst Gmail if you want.
MUFON Analyst at Gmail. And as always, joining me tonight was Mark D'Antonio of NASA's Unexplained Files, What on Earth, a whole bunch of other things, including the Sky Tour Radio on KGRA Radio at Sunday nights at 9 p.m. And, of course, Sky Tour live stream here on YouTube, where if you really want to learn something, go there and check it out. And he'll actually take you to the store of the deep sky. We're talking stars and nebula and all that good stuff live. So you can see it.
In a real observatory here.
And I'm sure one of the mods can post Mark's channel link there for us if you can. And I'm pretty sure you'll be back sometime. We might even have you back this moon stream at some point.
I'll be happy to come back.
Yeah, I think we might, just because people have a lot of questions, and I like you putting the educated smackdown on dumb stuff, so maybe I'll have you back. Maybe I'll have you in Astronomy Live and really piss a lot of people off. Because Astronomy Live, he's like a talking computer.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
We're not talking about, are we talking about Chris or are we talking about Dave?
No, we're talking about Astronomy Live.
Different guy.
Not Astronomy Live stream, Astronomy Live.
Oh, okay, that's different.
The guy that did the coding for the
tracker.
The tracker, yeah.
Yeah, I still have yet to talk to him.
Really? Darn. I asked him if I give you the info, and he said yeah. So, did you ever go back into Skype and get his info? And
I
I'll
mean,
send it to you. I'll send it
yeah,
to you
thanks.
again.
Let's restart that conversation.
Hmm?
Let's restart that conversation with him because I'd like to have him work with us and so forth.
Yeah. I'll send you his contact and info and everything. Since you guys got Meade.
That's a lesson to all of you out there. You see, if you're really nice to people and you're really, really interested in science and you have any kind of background in science or no background in science, as long as you ask the right questions, then you're not going to be told you're an idiot or stupid, okay? There are no stupid questions, and I'm happy to answer. I did my talk at Devil's Tower to people that didn't know anything about planets around other stars and astronomy. And by the end of the night, they were absolutely fascinated, and they really liked hearing about it. Are they astronomers? No, but they heard things they could take away. And that's all you're looking for. You're looking for those nuggets you can take away from any conversation, So I think it's kind of cool. And I'm now just reading Mrs. Gounet's question really quick here before we go here. I saw a couple of videos taken with this new P1000 camera of the moon. The videos are quite good. So I know if telescopes can be upgraded to a higher resolution. Actually, that's actually a very good question. And I think this is a good question to close with. The resolution of a telescope is specified by the parameters of its construction. You've got a focal length, all right, and you have an aperture size that is the size. And you can figure out the maximum resolution by using an equation that gives you something called the Dawes limit. Now, that doesn't mean anything to you yet. However, if you think about it, the camera itself can only deliver an image that's as good as the telescope can deliver. It can't do any better than the telescope. So that said, to upgrade a telescope to better resolution, you need to alter one of two things: its focal length or its aperture. The larger the aperture, the more resolution you can get. The smaller the aperture, the less resolution you will have. Your Dawes limit changes. So that said, that's the way you can get to upgrade to a higher resolution. You need to upgrade the telescope itself to a larger diameter. Okay. Now, if you upgrade to a larger diameter, but consequently reduce the focal length, you could end up with the same thing. You want to keep one thing the same. Okay. Usually, you want to keep the focal length. You want the focal length to change, or sorry, keep it the same and get a larger aperture, and that'll give you a better resolution. But that's how you upgrade a telescope, frankly. And the cameras won't give you any better resolution than the telescope can deliver.
And there you go.
There's
your info. And once again, we'll probably try to have. Actually, we might try to have you back this weekend if you're not doing nothing.
Oh yeah, I'm never doing anything.
Yeah, but with that being said,
I make time for P&K, just so people understand.
Yeah,
Ethan and I are very good friends. Paul's a very good friend. Sorry about that. And I think that it's important to, kind of sort of, I don't know, run. What is it? Run cover for you.
Duck and cover
when these other folks come at us.
Yeah.
And Spawn is correct. It's the fluoride in the water that's made people so stupid.
Exactly.
Yes, I don't believe that.
So we're going to wrap it up here on the microphones, and we'll probably wrap the stream in the next 5 minutes or so. But I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And most likely we'll be back this weekend. Of course, we'll be doing the moon stream every night that it's clear. It'll probably just be music for the next couple of nights, but we'll probably try to have Mark on again this weekend, and maybe somebody else if I can get it confirmed and done. So thanks, everyone, and we shall talk to you this weekend at some point. So everybody take care.
Thanks for being there. See you later.